Hi, and welcome to From Laughs to Leafs. On this channel, I'm going to be talking about everything that is my childhood team, the Maple Leafs. As you could probably guess by the channel name, I've been around since the dark days where it was more common to hear my beloved team referred to as the Maple Laughs than the Maple Leafs. But let's not dwell on the past and focus on what's important, the future. On the topic of the future of our head coach Mike Babcock is anything but certain. Babcock has been a recent hot topic in Leafs Nation. Half of the fan base is defending him and refer back to his resume for those with doubts, and the other half wants his head on a platter for some of his more questionable decisions regarding player deployment or lack thereof, or some of his late game decisions. So, in this first video, I'd like to take a deeper look into our head coach, Babcock, and determine whether he is still the coach to bring us to the ultimate goal of the Stanley Cup, or is his time as head coach of the Maple Leafs coming to an end? Before digging any deeper into some of the more controversial topics regarding Mike Babcock, let's look at his previous achievements. In 1997, Mike Babcock coached Canada internationally for the first time and led the World Juniors Team Canada to a gold medal, defeating United States. In 2002, he was named the head coach of his first NHL team, the Mighty Ducks, and led them to the best season in franchise history, with a total of 95 points. In 2004, he again coached Team Canada to a gold medal over Sweden in the International Ice Hockey Federation, making him the first coach to lead Canada to a gold at both World Juniors and a World Championship. In 2005, he was named the head coach of the Red Wings, and 3 years later, in 2008, he led the Red Wings to the franchise's 11th Stanley Cup. But his winning wasn't done there. In both 2010 and in 2014, he led Team Canada to gold medals in the Olympics, making him the only coach to enter the Triple Gold Club, winning a Stanley Cup, Olympic gold, and a World Championship. So needless to say, the man's career speaks for itself. Where he goes, he typically wins. And he's done a fine job bringing the Leafs from irrelevant to one of the greatest teams in the league. But is it possible this is where his winning streak will end? 3 first-round exits in a row, 2 of them to the same team, has left a bitter taste in some fans' mouths, and feel a change is necessary. So, let's take a look at some of the darker, more controversial aspects of Mike Babcock's career. Some players, not only fans, have had their issues with Mike Babcock in the past. One of the most outspoken players regarding Mike Babcock would have to be Mike Commodore. And before I continue, Mike Commodore has made it abundantly clear he does not like Mike Babcock and has a very personal issue with him. So everything he says should be taken with a grain of salt. With that being said, a lot of what he has to say sounds too realistic to make up considering it was his career on the line. So let's take a look. As previously stated, Mike Babcock's first team coach was the Mighty Ducks. On Mike Babcock's second year as head coach, Mike Commodore was traded by the New Jersey Devils to the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. At this point, Babcock was still a new coach in the league, and Mike Commodore wasn't even aware of who he was. So there was no bias either way. Mike Babcock, when finding out Commodore was traded to his team, contacted Commodore himself, letting him know to show up to training camp prepared and in shape. Nothing unusual with that. This was the norm. Now, according to Commodore, because he had been sent down to the minors more than once and called back up, he was fully aware he's not a high skill level guy, so his game had to be based off of working hard to remain in the league. So showing up to camp unfit wasn't an option for him regardless, even back in the early 2000s when showing up unfit and getting into shape during training camp was more acceptable. To begin the year, Babcock had Mike Commodore penciled in to start. And even though Mike Commodore didn't take that for granted, he wasn't expecting what happened next. Not only did Mike Babcock play someone else in his spot, he publicly bashed Mike Commodore to the media, claiming he was unfit to play because he was overweight. To quote Mike Commodore himself regarding this situation, "I swear to God, I never showed up out of shape because I wasn't talented enough to do it. If I would have showed up out of shape, actually done that, I would have been in the East Coast League and done in like 2 years. I had to show up in good shape." Unfortunately for Commodore, that reputation of being an unfit player who didn't care followed him the rest of his career thanks to Babcock. All this based off of a very subjective pinch test, claiming Commodore was 22% body fat when he was arguably in the best shape of his life, at least according to him. But not only did Babcock go to the media, he shamed Commodore in front of his teammates, showing the results of the test to the locker room. This is where the disdain for Mike Babcock began for Commodore. Fast forward a few years and Commodore hit free agency. At this point of his career, he wasn't expecting much and was just hoping an NHL team would like to bring him on for one last shot of staying in the league and proving himself as an asset. Much to his surprise, 5 minutes into free agency, he has an offer. Keep in mind, at this point, he wasn't expecting to hear anything, even from a team that was genuinely interested, until weeks into free agency. So who was this 1 year, $1 million contract from, you ask? None other than Mike Babcock's Detroit Red Wings. That's right, Babcock's now Red Wings, 5 minutes into free agency, just needed Mike Commodore's services, even though he humiliated and sat him in Anaheim. Naturally, Commodore was suspicious instead of being overjoyed he's getting another shot at the league. The only possible saving grace to that situation would be that Mike Commodore had a great relationship with the then general manager of the Red Wings, Ken Hollins. So Commodore contacted Ken Hollins himself and directly asked him if Mike Babcock actually wants him on the team, Hollins at this point being fully aware of the past the two had. Reassured Commodore that this was a genuine offer and the past would be the past, Babcock wants him and needs him. This wasn't enough to put Commodore's mind at ease, so he contacted Mike Babcock himself. To paraphrase, Commodore asks him, "Mike, please be honest with me. If you're just bringing me in to sit me and end my career, tell me. I'll say nothing, no hard feelings, but I know this is my last chance and I need to know wherever I go, I'm going to get an opportunity." Mike Babcock then reassured him, Yeah, I want you. We need a physical presence. We need a right-handed shot. Sounds familiar, I can't lie. Plus, Nick Lindstrom likes playing with a right-handed D-man. Commodore asks him one more time, Are you sure you want me? Babs confirms. The thought of playing alongside the legendary Nick Lindstrom was too alluring to say no to. This was a great chance to spark his career back up, right? Well, it ended up being the worst decision he's made in his professional career, according to him, because Detroit is inevitably where his career was ended. At the hands of his now nemesis, Mike Babcock. He hardly touched the ice that year, squashing his chance to show he's still got some years left in him. Now, Mike Commodore may be the most outspoken ex-player of Babcock's, but he's not the only player who's had some questionable run-ins with Babs. There does seem to be a slight history with Babcock where you could ask yourself, is he making a decision based off of personal feeling instead of business? And other times the opposite could seem to be true, also to a fault. Mike Modano, the Hall of Famer, returned to his hometown of Detroit to finish the remainder of his career off. Not only did he have an illustrious career, he played an incredible amount of hockey, over his career reaching the milestone of 1,499 games played. 1,499. But why not 1,500, you may ask? Well, the answer would be Mike Babcock. Mike Babcock thought it would be appropriate to sit Mike Modano for the remainder of the year, which also ended up being the remainder of his career. Keep in mind, all Babcock had to do to let Modano hit the milestone of 1,500 games played, one few players will ever achieve, is to allow him to lace up and literally play one shift. If he truly didn't trust his skill anymore, he could have easily played him one shift and benched him. Any coach, you would think at least, would want one of their players to hit such a milestone. Well, not Mike Babcock. Now, let's fast forward to 2019, and you could see something similar happening to hometown boy Jason Spezza. Toronto boy taking a discount contract to finish his career at home. It's a wonderful thing seeing players return home. Well, by all accounts and reports on the situation, Mike Babcock had a big hand in that transaction happening. Jason Spezza had other options. But apparently after 2 to 3 hours sit down with Mike Babcock himself, Spezza was convinced he'd be coming here and easily being penciled in as a fourth line center or at least a winger. Opening day of the season, at home, in front of his hometown city, he's finally returned. A dream come true, I'm sure. Well, not if Babcock has anything to say about it. He benched him. That's right, game 1 at home after having a great preseason, benched for sure. Did the media make a bigger deal than necessary out of a fourth line center? Sure. But it's all about the context that I just went over that makes people ask, is this a personal issue with Spezza? Spezza, being the veteran that he is and having the career he's had, at least deserved the respect of starting in his hometown. He deserved the respect of being the one to prove Babcock's concerns wrong first over Shore, who's had a fraction of the career Spezza has had. No disrespect intended. Especially considering Mike Babcock was one of the main reasons Spezza came back home. Taking all of this information into consideration, and the public drama and differences between him and the general manager Kyle Dubas regarding where this team is going, one can't help but ask themselves, has Mike Babcock's ego and personal feelings blinded him from being able to make the best decisions for this team? Or do you still see him staying as our head coach, at least for the remainder of the year? If you'd like to see more videos like this on the Leafs, please like and subscribe. I'd love for you to join and be part of the discussion. Until next time, this is From Laughs to Leafs. Have a great day.